Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 15 days away from its official release by Disney, Lucasfilm, J.J. Abrams, and even creator George Lucas. That is all set and ready to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 that a lot of fans are very worried about is exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to utilize this film. By the way, we are now just 2 weeks away from the release. We have the premiere over in Japan on December 11th, followed by the premiere over in Los Angeles on the 16th. So we're going to be hearing more reactions, either truthful or not so much honest reactions. We'll have to really examine those reactions to determine for ourselves whether or not they really are genuine by the critics that go ahead and see these movies. Now, with that being said, Episode 9 is just on the horizon. A lot of fans are very much curious exactly how this movie is really going to tie itself into the originals and the prequels. And from what we have been hearing and what we have seen, I actually have gone over some of my critiques based on the direction by Disney and Lucasfilm and what they plan to do with this trilogy. Now, what's really intriguing has all to do with one of the vital sequences that will be used as the highlight of Episode 9 without a doubt. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of a sequence where it's explained that one of the sequences based toward the very end of the second act of the film is said to involve a flashback scene between Luke Skywalker and Leia, where they appear just as they did in Return of the Jedi. It's explained that Leia is said to appear how she did in Return of the Jedi with a brand new outfit when training with her brother Luke on a foresty world, which may be the forest moon of Endor. It's said that the de-aging technology by Disney and Lucasfilm was applied to Mark Hamill and the unused footage of Carrie Fisher as Leia from The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. It's said that one of the segments of the film is actually said to introduce Leia's lightsaber hilt that is said to ignite a blue lightsaber blade. The new lightsaber hilt is said to be a combination between Kenobi and Anakin's once it's introduced in the film. It's actually explained that in the upcoming novelization of the film that is due for release in March of 2020, next year, is that it will be unveiled that in the book, Luke was able to construct Leia's lightsaber based on a lightsaber hilt that he found from the old Republic era, that he tore apart into pieces and reconstructed it using the Force and into the hilt design that fans will see in the final version of the movie. Now, the flashback in the movie is said to involve both Luke and Leia dueling and clashing their lightsaber blades together, both blue, where the de-aging technology is said to make both Luke and Leia appear just as they did in Return of the Jedi's Endor scene, when Luke tells her the truth about Darth Vader and how she is indeed his sister. However, Luke in the upcoming flashback scene is actually said to have a different outfit that signals he is a Jedi Master at this point, and that in this time, the flashback is said to take place roughly 1 month after the events of Return of the Jedi. Now, the scene is said to play on Yoda's words in Episode 6 of "Pass on what you have learned." This is said to connect to Leia's scene with her new lightsaber that will eventually fall into the hands of Rey and later for Ben Solo, where this flashback is explained to be somehow connected to the world of Ahch-To and its sequence once Rey travels there. Now, which could very well imply that the flashback begins when Luke's Force Ghost talks to Rey in the First Jedi Temple. The scene is explained to give Leia the limelight that she deserves in the movie, and that Luke Skywalker will be treated with similar technology that he was used actually from the Marvel films, where they de-aged actors and actresses. Mark Hamill is actually said to have gone through some training to fulfill the scene properly, to the point where he was able to use specific fighting styles and had to examine a green screen carefully to actually determine where the unused Leia footage from the past 2 Star Wars films would be used on screen. It said that the scene took around 2 weeks to film and complete, and that included tons of wire work and stunt doubles, even for the character of Luke Skywalker performing other moves that Mark Hamill could not do on set. It's explained that this was all done to give an action scene for Leia in the movie. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, in case you guys did not know, The Rise of Skywalker is going to be a movie that will indeed introduce moments just like this. Now, like I've said, based on what we have heard, I really do believe that a lot of terrible decisions have been made by Disney and Lucasfilm based on what we went over, based on what they cut from the movie and deleted from Episode 9. However, this particular moment seems like it is in fact going to be the big highlight of the movie, the Luke and Leia flashback scene where they are both dueling each other in the form of a training session on the world of Endor, from what it seems, on the forest moon of Endor. It's said to take place on a foresty world. It pretty much seems like it's going to be Endor. You know, let's just put it at that. So, the other thing that I do want to go over is that the official novelization of The Rise of Skywalker, which by the way is going to give the fans more facts about the movie and new canon lore, that is going to be released in March of 2020 next year, is that in that book, it's going to explain that Luke Skywalker actually discovered a old Republic era lightsaber hilt. We're not quite sure exactly what the hilt really looks like, but that Luke Skywalker tore it apart into pieces and used those scrap pieces to construct Leia's lightsaber that we do see in the final version of Episode 9, that is going to be used by Leia in the form of a flashback, by Rey, and eventually by Ben Solo when going up against Palpatine. So this movie is going to honor Carrie Fisher / Leia's legacy, and that's one highlight about this movie. I think I really do got to give credit to, you know, Disney and Lucasfilm, at least for that. You know, I do have a lot of problems so far that's going on with this movie that I have actually talked about the, you know, different agendas that Disney and Lucasfilm are going through with this movie, and how they deleted some of the key scenes that a lot of fans around the world would have really loved and enjoyed. So this scene really seems like it's going to at least be the highlight of Episode 9, without a doubt, something that is going to be more true to that of the expanded universe. If you guys are unfamiliar with the EU, in the EU, basically Luke Skywalker trained Leia to become a Jedi, and that Leia had multiple lightsabers. Now, at least in the Disney canon, Leia at the very minimum had one lightsaber that will be handed down from Luke's Force Ghost to Rey during her time on Ahch-To. It's very possible that this flashback, since it is associated with the Ahch-To segment at the very end of Act 2, is that it's actually going to be the segment in which Ahch-To, where Rey meets up with Luke's Force Ghost tells her about Leia's lightsaber. Most likely this flashback will actually be played along with Luke's words as a Force Ghost, telling her the story about how he trained her to become a Jedi, and that she refused later on to fulfill the Jedi legacy, right? To fulfill becoming a Jedi because she was pregnant with Ben Solo, and that she was more invested in her politics and felt more pretty much, you know, associated with that to help the galaxy, is politics, right? So Leia is a political figure in the books and the novels well before the events of The Force Awakens, and that kind of is now going to be put to the wayside, where she is going to be the master of Rey in the very beginning of this movie. She's going to train Rey on this jungle world, essentially, since there is no Luke Skywalker, and that basically Leia is going to be the Jedi-like figure in Episode 9, which kind of alludes to what Colin Trevorrow was going to do, and what he was planning to do before Carrie Fisher passed away, is that originally Leia was going to have the limelight like how Luke and Han Solo did in The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. And the last thing I just want to go over here real quick is the de-aging technology. I really hope it's going to be quite seamless. You know, as much as I hated the Terminator Dark Fate film, the one thing I will say is that the CGI in the very beginning of the movie, the de-aging tech, or whatever they did to create a young Sarah Connor and a young Edward Furlong as, you know, John Connor, they did an excellent job with that. Obviously, the terrible decision was killing off John Connor. I mean, that was a bad decision by themselves, but apart from that, the scene was very well done, and the fact that they have superior technology in comparison to what Terminator Dark Fate did, I can only imagine what this scene is going to look like on the big screen and how seamless it's really going to be. The fact that Luke and Leia are going to appear just as they did in Return of the Jedi is a big deal. It tells us that, you know, this movie is going to have basically a nice connection to the original trilogy in that particular segment. So that's at least one thing to look forward to with The Rise of Skywalker. This really will be the highlight of the movie. It originally, by the way, was going to be the opening of the film before they changed it and moved it over to the second act. So obviously, I guess they didn't want a flashback to serve as the opening of a Star Wars movie, where now the opening of the film is Kylo Ren arriving on Exegol, where he discovers Palpatine. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.